All right. So moving on to Sutra 7, again another long Sanskrit name, right? Pronounced as, right, Sankalana Vyavakalanabhyam. Vyavakalanabhyam. So breaking it up, Sankalana Vyavakalanabhyam. So pronounced as Sankalana-vyavakalanabhyam. Okay. So the seventh sutra, right? So this principle, what does it mean? By addition and by subtraction, right? Straightforward. By addition and by subtraction. So again, this provides an elegant solution for various mathematical problems through the strategic use of additions and subtraction operations, right? So before we begin our two examples, right, let's understand the deeper meaning behind the sutra. So in authentic Vedic mathematics, this principle reveals how complex calculations can be simplified by transforming them into a series of additions and subtractions. So the ancient sages recognized that many mathematical operations become more manageable when reframed in terms of these fundamental operations, which are what? Additions and subtractions. Okay. So let's look at example 1, elimination by addition. Okay. So this sutra reveals the ancient Vedic approach of solving systems of equations through strategic additions. So first we'll focus on example for additions. So the Vedic sages recognize that when two equations have terms with opposite coefficients, adding them together causes these terms to cancel out, immediately simplifying the system. Rather than following mechanical steps, this method teaches us to observe the structure of equations and choose operations that lead to elegant eliminations. This demonstrates the profound mathematical intuition of our ancestors who understood that the choice of operation is as important as the operation itself. So the equation we're going to look at will be to solve 3x minus 2y equal to 7 and 2x plus 2y equal to 8. Okay, so 3x minus 2y equal to 7, 2x plus 2y equal to 8. Okay. So step 1, observe that the first equation has minus 2y and the second has plus 2y. So this minus 2y and plus 2y. Again, that's one of the recognition, right? As per the sutra. Okay. So what does that mean? That immediately means negative 2y, positive, 2y. What it means, you add them, right? Add those two equations. So what happens if you add these two equations, left side, 2y cancel, so you have 3 plus 2, 5x equal to 7 plus 8, 15, right? So as it is 5 equal 15, so what is x? X equal to 3. See how quickly you got what x is, the value of x. Now it's pretty straightforward, right? You just do the substitution. So substitute x equal to 3 into the second equations, whichever equation you want to, right? And so if you do the second equation, that's 6 plus 2y equal to 8, right? And so if you substitute that, then what happens is you take the 6 on the other side, so y equal to 1, right? Because 2y equal to 2, so y equal to 1. So you quickly solved the equation x equal to 3 and then y equal to 1, right? So take a few minutes to digest and you see how easy it is. As soon as you observe, so recognize the patterns and then apply. So in this case, as soon as you look at these two equations, you immediately can see what's happening, the 2y, 2y, and then you say, oh, okay, you're going to apply elimination by addition, right? Now let's look at another example where you'll use elimination by subtractions, right? In this example demonstrates how the Sankalana, right, principle extends to subtraction as a strategic choice, right? So the Vedic sages understood that when two equations have terms with the same coefficient, subtracting one from the other causes these terms to cancel out. So this insight reveals the complementary nature of additions and subtraction as tools of simplification. So rather than applying a fixed algorithm, the sutra teaches us to analyze the structure of equations and choose the right operation that leads to the coefficient elimination, right? So let's look at it. 5x plus 3y equal to 19, right? That's the equation. Other equation is 5x minus 2y equal to 9. You see 5x, both positive. So you immediately say elimination of subtraction. Okay. So you apply that first step, right? You see that both have 5x, right, which is the same. So as step 2, say subtract the second equation from the first, right? Like you said, as soon as you see plus, subtract. So 5x goes away. And so what happens? 3y minus 2y. So that becomes a plus. So 5y, 19 minus 9, 10. So what is y? Y equal to 5, right? Sorry, y equal to 2. So 5y equal to 10, so y equal to 2, right? And now all you do is you apply the substitution in any of the equations, right? And then you can see that if you apply to y equal to 2 for the first equation, so that is what? 5x plus 3 times 2, 6 equal to 19. So 5x, right, equal to 19 minus 6, right? So that's 5x equal to 13. So x equal to 2.6. So y equal to 2, x equal to 2.6, right? So again, you saw just by observing the pattern of the equations, you make a determination which principle to apply in this Sankalana, right, Sutra. So Sankalana-vyavakalanabhyam demonstrates the elegant efficiency of Vedic mathematics by strategically applying addition and subtraction. Complex mathematical problems become systematic and straightforward. So the Vedic insights we have explored reveal how ancient sages developed methods that remain relevant and powerful even in our modern world. This sutra, in particular, is valuable for solving equations or solving systems of equations, performing algebraic manipulations, and finding squares and other powers, right? So by breaking down complex operations into a series of additions and subtractions, we can often reach solutions more efficiently and with greater clarity.